All right, have and have not fans, a promise is a promise, and I'm going to make a little quick video here in regards to a top 5 from season 1. Now, with the binge-a-thon on the horizon here, I thought it was, pretty important to go back to the original season and kind of talk about different elements of, this happened during episode 5, this happened during episode 12, just going back to like important setup points during season 1 that pretty much spread to season 2, 3, and now we're currently in 4, and the cast to finish, filming season 5. So with that being said, the theme of this video is going to be a top 5 speech/monologue. Basically what I did was I rewatched season 1 of the Haves and Have-Nots before the binge-a-thon. Yes, I literally watched all 16 episodes, I believe, of season 1. And from that, list of episodes, I pretty much my personal top 5 speeches of season 1. Now, you might have speeches or monologues that the characters give during this season 1 that aren't on this list, but I'm pretty sure, based off the fans that I talk with on the regular on Twitter and Facebook, you might agree with my list, you might not. But again, I'm guessing that maybe 85% of you would agree with the 5 speeches that I personally picked out. I put them in my own order because, again, some speeches kind of resonated a little bit more than others. But with that being said, I want to start off with number 5. The speech that I felt was, I guess you could say, one of the most important bits of dialogue came from none other, believe it or not, Professor HAHN. And I believe it was, let's see here, just trying to figure out the exact episode and title. That way when the binge-a-thon comes on, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. It was the episode where Candace tells Amanda pretty much, hey, doll yourself up, go strut your stuff in that classroom in order to get a retest with Professor HAHN. It was episode 8 called The Criminal. So the criminal being the title that David labels Candace as, in terms of Jim calls her Candace or Candy. The criminal is what David calls her. Number 9 is what Catherine calls her, but I'll get to that number 9 later. So basically, the speech I'm talking about here is the fact that Professor HAHN gave the retest, came over to her apartment that night because he assumed that since she was rooming with Candace that she was a prostitute or hooker just like Candace was, and was, going to get the goods in order to get the grade. Now, what made this speech so important, not just the dialogue before he raped her, but the dialogue afterwards. And props to Jacqueline just for the acting, because most people just talk bad about Amanda and Jacqueline in terms of, hey, she was a bad actress, I didn't really care about her, it's a good thing she's dead. I didn't really think so. I feel like Jacqueline portrayed Amanda the way she was supposed to be, a little ditzy, not normal in terms of mental. And I'm talking before she stopped taking her meds. It's the fact that Amanda just lacked a lot of self-confidence. That's one of the major things that stood out about Amanda during the first few episodes of season 1. And it just really hurt to kind of see that scene, because Amanda was unsure about what was going on. Professor HAHN was like, hey, stop playing these games. And what he did, he just pretty much just insulted her, said she was stupid, you're pretty but you're not smart. And you could just see on Amanda's face that those words were literally breaking her down, like what little bit of self-confidence she did have, because you could see it when Candace took the blindfold off after she had finished, wearing, put on the heels, the makeup, the dress, did her hair. Like, she was pretty self-confident. So when she went to that room to do the retest, she got the information that, hey, you passed the test. I did. You could feel that her confidence grew, and then Candace swoops in there, breaks her down, throws her to the room, and you could hear her crying. It was just, that was probably one of the few episodes of the entire series that made me kind of cringe, just like, I can't believe he did that. And then Amanda's face after, she got raped, where she's literally staring off into space, and then Professor Candace, just putting on his clothes, talking about, hey, that was good, we should do this more often. And he literally rattles off a list of all the other professors who pretty much do exactly what he does. So that speech pretty much set up Amanda's character's drop, from that point in terms of her committing suicide, stopped taking her meds, and then that leads to season 2 when she pretty much stalks him, stabs him, puts the gun down his throat, and then that leads to him being killed off by Jim in season 3. But again, Personally, that's why I felt that speech had to be on this list, just because it really did speak a lot in terms of where Amanda's character shifted after that raping incident. So, moving on to number 4. This, to me, was another great example of character development, and it was one of those scenes where you see two characters you would never really think of interaction between them. It's the scene where Hannah prays with David for her son Benny. And if you remember, Benny was in jail at this point because he was arrested for being behind the wheel of Candace's new red sports car that she blackmailed off of Jim when she got the $100,000. David planted drugs in the car to have the driver, in his mind would be Candace, arrested for the kilos and put in jail for a long time. That way, the campaign that they were about to start. Remember, season 1 was all about hey, we're running for governor, blah, lieutenant governor. Then it got shifted after the whole hit and run incident in season 2. Well, the ending of season 1, but then that moved over into season 2 where it was more about covering up Wyatt's mistake than the campaign itself. So it was just the fact that the audience, we knew that David was guilty. He was the one that set up Benny unintentionally because he was going after Candace. Hence why the detective had him arrested, not knowing who the perp was. But then again, David did tell him a few times that it was it was Candace, but Benny was arrested. And then he figured out, hey, that's Candace's brother, so this might not be too bad after all. And that's when he found out that Hannah was Candace's mom. So in his mind, he figured everything that happened to Jim was a setup in terms of Hannah's the maid, her daughter seduces Jim, they want to run away with the money. This scene right here pretty much broke David's, hey, Hannah isn't so bad after all. Maybe it's Candace the one who's running wild. That's when he did a background check on Hannah, found out, she goes to church on the regular, she's behind on bills, she's a, stable mother, and Candace is the one who has the issues. So I guess you could say that scene itself was just powerful because, and again, you could just title that episode, The Power of Prayer, the fact that Hannah went to David, the man who indirectly put Benny behind bars wrongfully. The power of that prayer just broke David down like he was in tears. And it was just cool to see a have-not who is in the faith break down a have like David. Because again, you could tell that David and, everybody else doesn't really go to church. So to have that prayer resonate so much on such an emotional level that he would change his heart and perspective towards Hannah was just incredible. Then it moves on to season 4 where we saw that, Hannah was waiting to get her check from Catherine. David walks in. They have that vicious exchange in terms of Hannah's like, I don't like you. You knew about the hit and run. You covered it up. So again, it's really amazing to see that season 1 prayer kind of resonated all the way to season 4 because Hannah was getting help from the very person that put her son behind bars to begin with. So again, that's what I love about the haves and the have-nots, where, you compare the Tyler Perry plays and whatnot, where God is pretty much resonant throughout the entire play. But I guess you could say because the plays are only maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours long, they have to cram everything in there. I like how the haves and the have-nots is pretty much extended in terms of you have some people who are definitely in the faith, especially Hannah, and then to have that interaction with a person who isn't like David or Veronica, and that kind of resonates throughout the series. And that goes back to, when Jim threw a fit and fired Hannah, but then she came back because he was crying in Amanda's room, and she comforted him with words of God, and you don't really see the effect of what that has on Jim aside from him being nicer to Hannah. But that's something I'll talk about in season 3 videos. So back to season 1. Let's see, that was number 5 was the Professor Ken and Amanda. Number 4 was Hannah and David. Now, I'm not going to lie, the top 3 are definitely difficult to put in any kind of order because they're really good. And I know this video is 10 minutes long, but I want to just, again, the binge-a-thon is coming up. I want to tell you my favorite moments. That way, when you see the episode, hopefully you can feel the same way I did. So, number 3, I am Veronica. In the episode 14, My Name is Veronica. It was right after Veronica, with her tenacity, did her homework, because remember that she was appointed as the attorney to help Benny get out of jail because, Catherine got Veronica to do it, since Jim and David were pretty much dropping the ball because they were the ones, well, excuse me, David was the one to have this set up to begin with. Veronica, as David pointed out, once Veronica, has the scent of something, she will not sleep, eat, or do anything until she figures out what's going on. Then she figures out everything. She busts into the office of Jim, David, and then the detective he hired to dig up stuff on Candace and set her up with the car and the drugs. That's when she throws the paperwork down, and she breaks it down like a fraction in terms of she knows who did what. David was the one to set up the drugs in the car. Jim was the one to have his hand in the candy jar and figured out he had an affair. It was just a powerful moment that shows that, love her or hate her, Veronica, she knows her stuff. And again, this is before, the whole Veronica goes crazy and burning houses down. This is season 1 right here. And that's what I love about this speech, because it does set up the fact that this girl, Angela Robertson, this woman, when she has her mindset on something, she will figure it out. She will go for it. And that's why I love this speech so much. And the fact that she looked at everybody in the room, is like, well, not you, detective, you're below the pay grade. And his face was just priceless. So the I Am Veronica speech was just a powerful indication of, this is one woman you do not want to mess with or lie to. And if you look closer, it really does set up the whole tension between David and Veronica before Jeffrey comes out of the closet. It's the fact that even though Veronica was a bit controlling, the two really did, care and love each other. And then the fact that David lied to Veronica to cover it up, Jim's affair to cover it up, because remember that David was the one to deliver the car to Candace, and because he was acting kind of funny for a couple episodes, Veronica had him followed. That's when she got the pictures and then thought that he was messing around with Candace, but in reality he was delivering the car to Candace for a client who was Jim. So that's why Veronica's trust in David kind of shifted or, diminished at that point. Hence why the whole Maggie, Veronica, and David triangle, that's what got stronger in season 2 and season 3. Now, number 2. This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with episode 16, entitled No More Hiding. Jeffrey comes out to his parents. Powerful moment after Wyatt, tricks Jeffrey into admitting that he was gay. Jeffrey knocks him out. He steals his car keys. That's when he goes to the crack house. I never understood why he never went straight back to Laura. I really did love the Wyatt and Laura thing, because even Celine was like, Laura was the best thing that happened to Wyatt, because when those two were together, he was never into drugs or drinking or anything. So the fact that Jeffrey lied to Laura and Wyatt to have Wyatt to himself, I mean, if it were me, the first thing I would do is go to the girl that I, yelled at and accused of lying. But it looks like Wyatt didn't think Laura was lying. He pretty much just accused her to set Jeffrey up so he can figure out that he was gay. But with that being said, Jeffrey catches the bus or a cab or something to go to David's office where Veronica is. That's when he has the emotional breakdown and he comes out to his parents. And that, that's another thing Tyler Perry does, because he can have you despising a character for like half or an entire season, but then the next thing you know, there's a shift in the power of these characters and you actually like them. Like for me, I know a lot of fans, because I've been on Twitter since episode 1. I know some people are like me. You hated Jeffrey. It wasn't the fact that he was gay. I'm not a homophobe or anything like that. It's the fact that he was knowingly sabotaging Wyatt just so he can have him for himself, in terms of, lashing out at Laura, hating their relationship, their rekindled relationship, looking at Wyatt while he was sleeping, trying to, sneak, lay beside him, all that little stuff, and, just that stuff like that. It was kind of creepy. But then to see him break down like that, his mom pretty much just disowned him. And you can really see in that one moment. And again, I'm really glad that Tyler Perry did this. He made season 1 such a great finale that the season 2 setup, again, it goes back to the I Am Veronica speech, where Veronica's faith in David faltered when she found out that he lied to her. Then you have the whole Jeffrey coming out, and that just divided the marriage even more, with not necessarily David being, hey, I'm for, gays and homosexuals and whatnot, because remember, it was mentioned in episode 2 that David ran a campaign about, you know, a stable household where he was against gay marriage. So for his own son to be gay, that kind of conflicted with that, hence why Jeffrey never really came out. So with David being proud of his son no matter what, and Veronica just, hey, look, you're black, that's hard enough. You want to put being gay on top of that? Not saying she isn't making a point based off, you know, where they live at, especially in Georgia, in the upper class side of town. And the fact that everybody but Veronica and David knowing that he was gay kind of says a few things. But I feel like this speech definitely had to make it on the countdown just because it was a perfect gateway into what happens in season 2 up until the present, in terms of Veronica wanting him back in the closet, so to speak, by setting him up with Melissa, getting her pregnant and all that other stuff, and now with him getting married on the horizon. That's, I don't know, it's just amazing to see that Gavin Houston pretty much broke down in that scene. That was pretty powerful stuff. So again, it speaks volumes to Tyler Perry's writing. In fact, that you can have such hatred for a character but then start to like them, because in season 2 he becomes a likable guy because he isn't this guy chasing after Wyatt all the time. You see that he is a person and he just wants to be happy. So this leads to the number 1 speech. I think we can all, I mean, again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like we can all agree that the number 1 speech has to go to Catherine Cryer, episode 10, number 9. It was the episode where Candace pretty much runs up to Catherine's room and reveals that she's having an affair with her husband. And Catherine, who was battling breast cancer at the time, and again, it's one of those things where it was mentioned and seen in season 1, but after that it's like, wait, she had cancer? Because it's been a while. I mean, this was 2013. We're talking, yeah, July 23rd, 2013 when this episode came out. Catherine laying in bed with nobody but Hannah, knowing she's going through the cancer right now, has to deal with the, excuse the French, bullshit of her husband pulling another affair, but it wasn't right under her nose, and that was the beauty of it. She gets up, when she gets up out of that bed, puts on her slippers, stands at the foot of the bed, and like chews up Candace. That was beautiful. Renee Lawless, you killed that scene. That was fantastic. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was just showing how powerful this woman was. I mean, she was battling for her life, but she still had enough. She had some teeth left, put it that way. She had enough energy to get out there, chew Candace out, get the hell out of my house. I knew from the moment I smelled that disgusting fragrance, the perfume on Jim's shirt, the drugstore lipstick. Oh, she literally just tore Candace apart. I loved it. That, hands down, the number, and the fact that she said number 9. If I'm not mistaken, in the Tyler Perry show, where if it was during season 2, when Tyler Perry would have the episodes where the cast members would talk about, you know, the behind the scenes stuff, I believe most of that speech was ad-libbed, or Tyler Perry came up with the name number 9 on the cuff, you know, while he was writing the script, and she delivered it. I mean, Catherine Cryer, you deserve, Renee Lawless, you deserve this number 1 spot on this countdown for the number 9 speech, because the fact that she would continually call Candace number 9 throughout the series, fantastic. So I know this video is almost 20 minutes long, but again, with the Benjathon coming up soon, I wanted you to know some of my picks of my favorite season 1 dialogue/monologues. So when you're watching the episodes, maybe you felt the same way I did, or you can relive those scenes while you're watching the Benjathon coming up in a few days. So just to quickly go back over them, number 5 was Professor Cannon's confidence-breaking speech to Amanda before and after she was raped, looking at Hannah praying with David for Benny, Jeffrey coming out to his parents, I Am Veronica speech. Then you have Jeffrey coming out to his parents, followed by the number 9 speech. So let me bring this video to a close. Please share, like, comment, subscribe, because again, I'm trying to make as many videos as I can before the Benjathon. And hey, fingers crossed for June 21st, because we have a long way to go, but it's going to be worth it, guys. I'm pretty sure this episode is going to be fantastic. You all have a great day.